we've got somebody very important coming up on stage today. Come and gather around and welcome to the stage, Jimmy Fowler, warning coordination meteorologist for NWS.
Hello, hello. Like she's mentioned, my name is Jimmy Fowler. I am the warning coordination meteorologist for the local National Weather Service office. And today I'll be talking with you about what we may expect for the hurricane season this year. First, I am going to talk a little bit about what happened last year. Then we'll go on to what may happen this year. And I can't not talk about some preparedness information as well. So looking back at last year, we actually had a slightly below normal season. We had 13 named storms in the Atlantic Basin. That's one less than normal. But 5 of those became hurricanes. And then of those 5 hurricanes, 4 actually became major hurricanes. This is the most season that had the most Category 5 hurricanes since 2005. One thing you'll notice, though, is that in the Gulf of Mexico, we actually had very little tropical activity. We had one storm, Tropical Storm Chantal, but outside of that, it was a very less active season. One thing to note is that since 2017, there have been more landfalling Category 3 hurricanes since 2017 than since the entire period ranging from 1963 to 2016. So a lot of the storms that we have been getting these past few years have become very, very strong. So what can we expect for this year? To kind of give you an idea of what goes into a hurricane season forecast, we kind of want to know, how does a tropical cyclone form? You kind of need to have 3 ingredients. One, you need to have very warm sea surface temperatures to help feed the storm. You also need to have high atmospheric moisture around the storm to help kind of build it up. And one thing we also need to have is actually low winds outside of the storm. That kind of allows the storm to really breathe and get stronger and stronger. And forecasting more than a week out can be pretty tricky, but we do have some tools to give us an idea of how busy a hurricane season may be. One of the factors that goes into that forecast is going about the El Nino Southern Oscillation, or ENSO. You may have heard that about, if we're going to be in a El Nino or a La Nina year. That is going to kind of help give us a clue about how active a hurricane season may be. And the best part about ENSO is that we can actually predict this fairly well months in advance. So what is ENSO? So basically ENSO is looking at how warm or cold the Pacific Ocean waters are around the equator. When they are warmer than normal, we call that El Nino. When they're colder than normal, we call that La Nina. And just this slight difference in the ocean temperatures in the Pacific Ocean can have global impacts on the weather pattern. So how does that affect hurricane season? So during El Nino years, in the Pacific Basin, it actually adds, we have a bunch of warmer waters and actually lower winds across the equator, so that allows for more storms to form in the Pacific Basin. But the opposite is true for the Atlantic Basin. It actually increases the trade winds across the Atlantic, and those trade winds end up kind of suffocating the storms before they can really get going. So in El Nino years, we typically see fewer hurricanes in the Atlantic Basin. For La Nina years, the opposite is true. Those trade winds are actually weaker, so then that allows the storms to really get going once they begin to form. So we typically have more hurricanes during La Nina years. So what is the ENSO going to be for this year? The ENSO forecast shows that we are actually going to be transitioning into El Nino conditions by the summertime this year. So using that information, we can kind of expect potentially a lower than normal hurricane activity in the Atlantic Basin. The official Weather Service forecast will not be out until later this May, but using ENSO as a clue, we can expect the lower than normal tropical cyclone activity. But it only takes one. What if I told you that the forecast that was going to come out was only going to show 4 tropical storms this year with 1 major hurricane? How serious would you take that seasonal prediction outlook? Would you, think, oh, it's going to be a less active than normal season? don't have to worry about it. However, this was the actual season that happened back in 1983, which is the year that we had Hurricane Alicia make landfall in southeast Texas. And this storm was very impactful for the region. It ended up bringing tons of storm surge along the Galveston Island and up Galveston Bay. So, even though it was a very quiet season, it only took that one storm to be very impactful here. And also, even though during El Nino years we'll have less activity potentially in the Atlantic Basin, we do still sometimes get significant Gulf hurricanes that occur during El Nino years. One of those was actually Hurricane Alicia back in 1983. And then we also had a Category 3 Hurricane Audrey in 1957. The names that we'll be using this year, so for the National Hurricane Center, they will be recycling names every 6 years. So this year, we are actually reusing a lot of the names that we used back in the 2020 season. However, we did have quite a number of very powerful storms that year. And when a storm is very significant, that name will then get retired and then never used again. So even though we are reusing the name cycle from 6 years ago, a lot of these names are new for this year. So let's talk a little bit about how to prepare for hurricane season. So one thing I do want to talk about is, whenever you see a hurricane forecast, you see this image of the cone of uncertainty. And a lot of people will assume that if they are outside that cone, they will be okay. However, this cone is only telling you about where the center of the storm will potentially be. It does not tell you anything about how far away the impacts will be felt from rain, storm surge, winds, tornadoes. It only tells you about the center of the storm. And from last year, the cone was kind of broken up into two sections. It showed a white shaded area for the next 3 days, and then a dotted area for a 3 to 5 day forecast. And it also showed just the tropical storm and hurricane warnings down along the coast. It didn't show any of the inland watches and warnings. For this year, there's actually going to be some changes with the cone of uncertainty. We will now be plotting not only the coastal watches and warnings, but also the inland watches and warnings for hurricanes and tropical storms. And then the entire 5 day cone will be shaded the white. However, it still does not show the entire picture. It doesn't tell you anything about the heavy rain threat, the storm surge threat, or the tornado threat. So whenever we have an active storm heading our way, you really want to make sure you're paying attention to the entire forecast and not just looking at the cone of uncertainty. Preparation is a marathon, not a sprint. So you kind of want to be getting prepared for hurricane season well in advance so that when it does happen, you are not scrambling to get your preparations completed. Preparation is not about fear. It's about taking control of your actions before the storm arrives. One thing you want to know your zone. Do you live in an evacuation zone? And if you are, you want to have a plan of what to do if an evacuation order is given. You want to prepare a kit. You want to make sure you have enough water, non-perishable foods, and medications for at least 7 days. And you also don't want to forget about your pets. And then also stay informed. Stay aware of the weather throughout the entire hurricane season, and make sure to follow trusted sources for forecast information. One thing to note is that a lot of times, in a perfect world, we will have a forecast multiple days in advance. However, a lot of times, the storms in the Gulf of America will rapidly intensify before making landfall. Of the 9 tropical cyclones to impact Texas since 2010, only one of them developed outside the Gulf, and that one redeveloped rapidly. So you want to make sure that you are prepared in case the forecast changes very quick to landfall. One thing you should do before the hurricane season starts is to determine your risk. So not only think about those high winds, but think about if you are could be potentially impacted from storm surge. Do you live in a low-lying area that is prone to flooding from rainfall? If there is a tornado, where would you go if a tornado warning was issued? And then you also want to be prepared for rip currents. So a lot of times, we will start to get rip currents along our beaches multiple days before the hurricane arrives. So even before the very first cloud, we could start to see impacts along the coast. Tropical cyclones in the Atlantic Basin, they are broken up on tropical depressions, tropical storms, and then once it became a hurricane, we categorize that into 5 categories, with category 1 being the lower end of the risks, and then category 5 being the devastating high impacts from the winds. But again, this only tells you about the wind threat from the hurricane. It doesn't tell you anything else about the other impacts. And most fatalities from tropical cyclones actually occur from water. From 1963 through 2012, the largest section of fatalities from tropical cyclones happened from storm surge, and then the other 27% happened from heavy rainfall. However, in the decade between 2013 and 2023, we had a lot of active hurricane seasons during that time frame, and a lot that dumped a lot of rain. So in that decade, over 50% of the fatalities were associated from heavy rainfall leading to inland flooding. The impacts from the high winds that will tell you from the category only factors in a tiny percentage of these fatalities. So that's why you really need to take the entire storm as a whole and not just focus on the high winds. So before hurricane season starts, you want to make sure you develop an evacuation plan. Find out if you live in an evacuation zone, plan your routes. If you were to evacuate, where would you go? You make sure you have your go bag for supplies with medicines, food, water, and also plan for your pets and make sure they have enough food for themselves. And also, if you are evacuating to a shelter, make sure that they will be able to take your pets with you. For our area, we have evacuation zones down along the coastline. Really encourage you to go online to figure out if you are living in an evacuation zone. For disaster supplies, again, you want to make sure you have food and water, your medications. You want to have a gas tank full before the storm arrives. Keep phone chargers with you, battery packs, so that in case you don't have access to an outlet for a while, you can charge your stuff, and then also have cash on hand. Another great tip is also have a thumb drive with all of your important electronic documents, just in case you won't have access to the cloud or any of those documents that you have physically at your home, you won't be able to have access to. So also encourage to have a flash drive with all of your important information. Before hurricane season, also get an insurance checkup. Check with your agent, see what is covered, what's not. You want to know your policy, and also consider getting additional flood insurance. Before hurricane season, you want to make sure you strengthen your home. Figure out if you have to get plywood to cover your windows, secure any outdoor items. Do you have any trees in your yard that would potentially have some damaged branches that may be easier to fall into your house than others? And right before the storm, if you aren't evacuating, move your vehicle to a safer location that potentially be avoidant from floodwaters, and make sure you secure all doors. And we are a community. Check in with your neighbor, see if they need any help. If they need help evacuating, see if you can help them. And also check in with them after the storm. A lot of times these impacts last for a week or more after the storm passes with those really impactful storms. So just check in to see if they need any help as well. And one thing that I like to do is have a written plan done before hurricane season. Because as a hurricane is developing, things begin moving very quickly. So having a written plan down that you can follow to make sure you're not missing any of the steps as you are preparing to evacuate or preparing for the hurricane, having it written down is a good way to make sure that nothing is missed. When a storm is happening, you want to make sure that you are staying in a safe place, away from wind and water. Have a way to get weather updates, whether that be through your phone, a NOAA weather radio, or through broadcast media. Keep in mind that impacts will be felt very far away from the coast. And listen to your local officials and avoid travel unless ordered to evacuate. And then those impacts will continue even after the storm happens. So if you evacuated, only return home when directed safely to do so. Remain vigilant. Typically after a hurricane passes, we end up getting very hot and humid around here. So you want to make sure that you are being safe from heat exhaustion or heat stroke, and also avoiding any floodwaters that may remain. You want to make sure you clean up safely, don't push yourself, and also check in on your neighbors as well to see if they may need any help. If you do have a generator and are using that to power your home, make sure that you're using that safely. Those generators should be left outside because they end up producing a lot of carbon monoxide. So if you end up having that in your garage or in your home, it ends up becoming a very dangerous situation. And then prepare for the likelihood that help and communications may not be available right away. So that's why you want to have your hurricane supplies ready to go before hurricane season. And also, you want to make sure you understand forecast information. I talked a little bit about the cone of uncertainty, but there are so much more out there from forecasts that you can get from. Know what alerts mean and the difference between a watch and a warning. You want to really focus on the potential impacts regardless of the storm size or category. Just a few years ago, we had Tropical Storm Imelda that produced a ton of rainfall around the region, but it was only a tropical storm. So if you're only paying attention to the category, you may be missing important information. And also know that deadly hazards do occur well outside of that cone of uncertainty. If you want to know more about hurricane preparedness and weather information, the National Weather Service here in Houston has developed a hurricane guide. You can go to this QR code with the hurricane guide there, or it is found at that link. So you can find out if you're living in an evacuation zone, how to build a kit to prepare yourself for hurricane season, and hopefully be prepared before the hurricane season begins. You can find us at weather.gov/Houston, and also on all the major social media platforms. Our handle is NWS Houston. We'll be posting forecast information on there. If there is a hurricane coming up and there's something to be worried about, we'll be posting that information on all of our socials as well.
We have Lisette Hernandez, Communications Supervisor for Harris County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Woo, woo, woo. We have Josh Scheidler, Assistant Director for Houston TransStar. Woo. We have Jeff Lindner, Director of Hydrologic Operations and Meteorologist for Harris County Flood Control District.
Jeff.
And we have Keith Stevens, Chief Communications and Marketing Officer for Centerpoint. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to open up a question for all of you guys. So we all know information moves fast during emergencies, but so does misinformation. Why is it so important for people to stay informed through trusted sources, and can you share an example of misinformation that you've seen spread during an emergency? So Keith, let's start off with you.
Wow, great question. I would say, first of all, we really push, we push out a lot of information during storm events and in advance, and we're always pushing people to certainly use our tools that we have, our social tools, but we also want people going to the government sites. Those are the trusted information sites. Certainly there's all kinds of examples out there, right? That there might be a bunch of people that are out of power, right? When there might be only 3 or 4. So that's the kind of thing that we look for, is if there's something that directly affects us but maybe is a bit exaggerated. We want to make sure that we go engage with people directly. We find Nextdoor is very helpful for that.
During times of emergency, we know that information is just constantly changing. So we want to make sure that you are following trusted sources, because that is the best way to get accurate and timely information. And when we are responding to these disasters, we're all making sure we're giving those very clear, specific instructions. We understand that rumors can start, and honestly, rumors can create panic. So we want to avoid that. And like Keith said, there are plenty of examples, but the one that comes to me most recently, in 2024, when we had the derecho, I do remember seeing some things floating around social media, ending up, causing a panic. And an example of that would be like a boil water notice. If we're already in a moment of disaster, we don't need that added stress for our community members. So again, it's just really vital that everybody follow those trusted sources, again, to get that accurate information so that everybody can make the right decisions for themselves and their family members.
That's a great answer. Thank you. Moving on to Josh Scheidler.
Yeah, good question, Ruth. So I don't know about you guys. When I open up my Instagram, just my personal Instagram, about half of what I see is not real, right? There's so much AI-generated content out there built to misinform or to confuse or to make you feel a certain way about someone or something, and you just can't quite trust what you're seeing on social media these days. And we live on our social media platforms and profiles. So really throughout the year, but definitely during times of emergency, it's so important to follow trusted sources, right? Elected leaders, our media partners, news partners, they help us tell the story to residents and the traveling public. Experts like the gentleman sitting next to me, right? Jeff Linder with the Flood Control District, right? There are trusted sources out there that you need to lean on because what they're putting out is real, it's accurate, and it will allow you and your families to make good decisions before hitting the road or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I'll kind of echo what everybody's already said here. It's in this day and age, misinformation almost moves faster than real information, than the actual information people need and need to know, and it almost clogs up or prevents people from getting that information that they need to know. And some of the big examples recently with the Hill Country flooding out in Kerrville, there was a ton, and there's still to this day continues to be a significant amount of misinformation about the rainfall and everything. We saw the same thing with Hurricane Helene in North Carolina about how the floods happened and that type of stuff. And some of it is people just don't understand what's going on, and so they say things and then it catches traction and it gets out there. And in other cases, it's people who are, really trying to say the wrong stuff and kind of put people against each other. And so that's a really big deal in today's communication medium of good, actionable, reliable information. And you really have to be careful of where you're getting it from and what you're looking at, because some of the stuff is getting pretty good out there. Even occasionally I'm surprised. I said, that sure does look official, but I know the bridge is not closed and something like that. And so you got to be really, really careful where you're getting your information.
Houston OEM, we offer Alert Houston alerts. And so they're very similar. For Alert Houston, you can text Alert Houston to 888-777 to get signed up. So, Lisa, tell us a little bit about Ready Harris Alerts. How can they sign up and why is it important?
So Ready Harris Alerts is an opt-in system. You can sign up by visiting readyharris.org, and you can select how you want to receive that information that matters to you. So that could be either a phone call, a text message, or an email. They do come in English and Spanish. And the great thing about Ready Harris Alerts is that it also has Ready Harris accessible alerts. So if you know of anyone that needs the accessibility, those alerts are designed to be compatible with video devices along with Braille readers. And that is for our community members that are low vision, low hearing, to make sure that they get that information as well. And Ready Harris Alerts, another easy and quick way to enroll for hurricane season is you can text the word Gulf, G-U-L-F, to 2026 to 888-777. So again, that's Gulf 2026, and that enrolls you automatically into the alert system so that you can receive updates throughout hurricane season.
One of the things that we face at Centerpoint is that we do not send you a bill for your electricity use. We're the poles and wires that deliver it. So sometimes we don't have contact information for everybody out there. So you might have a Centerpoint meter, the wires might come to your house, but you get your power from any number of different retail electric providers. We want you to sign up for Power Alert Service. That's an email, a phone number, receive it via text on your mobile. But we want to be able to let you know when there is a power outage in your area. And if we don't have your contact information because we don't bill you, we can't do that. So please visit centerpointenergy.com/Power Alert Service. Sign up for that. It's free. There's no charge to it. You can use it as much as you want. You can also get contact information for your parents that might be older, your kids who might have moved out of your house and live somewhere else. So please sign up for Power Alert Service.
Awesome. Thank you. That is a great resource to have. So both City of Houston and Harris County can sign up for those. And Lisette, could you explain to people what it is and what's the difference between a wireless emergency alert and our opt-in alerts?
So our opt-in alerts are for local emergencies. So for instance, if we know that we're going to have a severe weather day, we will send out a Ready Harris alert. Or if we know that we're having some type of industrial emergency, we'll send out, again, a Ready Harris alert. Wireless emergency alerts, though, are very specific. Those are geographically targeted and come directly to your cell phone. So for instance, if you may recall seeing something from your local National Weather Service office. For instance, a tornado warning. Those are WIAs. They are sent by them. We see that as the final safety push message when needed to reach the entire county or a portion of the county. The last time that we sent a WIA was following Hurricane Beryl, when we partnered with the Fire Marshal's office because we received large amount of calls for carbon monoxide poisoning. So we sent out a wireless emergency alert to remind residents about generator safety. So it's just an extra way for us to make sure that we're tapping into all of our residents.
Please make sure that you have those emergency alerts turned on in the settings on your phone. We promise we will not bombard you with unnecessary alerts. They can literally save your life. So please make sure that you have those turned on. So let's talk about roadway safety. And let's talk about the famous Houston TransStar traffic map and app. So Josh, Houston TransStar is known for a good resource for traffic, right? But the Houston TransStar app is fantastic. It offers a lot of other tools. I love the TransStar app. So can you tell us a little bit about what else does the app offer that people might not know about?
Sure. So for those who may not know, Houston TransStar is the Southeast Texas region's Transportation Management Center and Emergency Management Center. Everybody who works at our building is either a representative of the city of Houston, Harris County, TxDOT, the TxDOT 6-County Houston District, or Metro. Y'all know Metro, the transit authority for Harris County. And together, we make up what is known as the Houston TransStar Consortium. We're working 24/7 to clear crashes from roadways, to keep roadways moving, to keep business moving. And our emergency management partners are working every single day of the year to prepare for and then respond to emergency situations. Our public-facing tools, we've got a website, houstontranstar.org, and we've also got a mobile application, which is exactly what you'll get on our website, just in your pocket, on your phone, right? But it is the most real-time traffic information that you can get. We've got 1,000+ roadway CCTV cameras, and you can actually see those on the website and on the mobile application. So if you're sitting in traffic and you don't know why, you can pull up that Houston TransStar mobile app and see what's going on, right? Now, you may still be stuck in traffic. There's not much you can do. But you can at least, see that it's an 18-wheeler, jackknifed, hazmat spill, kind of bad situation, right? So it's a really great resource to have in your pocket. But something neat we did with the app a number of years ago now was figure out a way to overlay some of Jeff's really great rainfall sensor and stream elevation data and pair it on top of our travel map. So now if we get a rain event, and it's Houston, y'all, we get that a lot, right? If we get a heavy rain event, and you are about to enter into an area that is highly likely to be flooded based on really accurate rainfall sensor data, your phone will ping or buzz, right? And obviously we don't want people to drive distracted, but we do want you to exercise caution if you're about to enter into an area that is highly likely to be flooded. So another sort of neat tool, right? Neat thing that you can get from the Houston TransStar app. We encourage you to download it. iPhone, Android devices, it's a free download. It's real-time information at your fingertips and just another great resource for residents and travelers.
And I can attest to that. And something else that it has is also Tow and Go, right? You can call Tow and Go directly from the app if you are stuck on the freeway. And so we've seen it help a lot of folks. And on that note, can you tell us a moment when those TransStar tools helped Houstonians to make safer decisions in real time?
Yeah, I think that, everything post-Hurricane Harvey, that roadway flood warning system tool has been active and available
Absolutely.
for folks. So we learned a big lesson in 2017, right? But made some changes and improvements, and it's now an even more valuable tool for folks, for sure. And real quick, Ruth mentioned the Tow and Go program, if you don't mind. So for y'all out there, when you drive on roadways, if you break down on a freeway in Harris County, you can get a no-cost tow up to within a mile of your breakdown. A tow truck driver that has been vetted is likely to come up on you and get you to safety. But using the Houston TransStar app, you can actually call our control room directly and get assistance and get service. So yet another tool, Ruth. Thank you for mentioning that. But another little valuable piece to have in your pocket.
Yeah, just another tool to stay prepared, right? I have some questions for Jeff. Jeff, many Houstonians know you as the weather guy after Hurricane Harvey, but they're not aware of all the work that you've done with the rain gauges and the Harris County flood warning system. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we operate a network of about 360 rain and stage gauges across not only Harris County, but the surrounding counties. So we go into Fort Bend, Waller, Montgomery, Galveston, Brazoria counties. And all this data is made available in real time at the website harriscountyfws.org. We also have what we call a channel status. So that's your creeks and your bayous and your rivers. And it's a green, yellow, red system. So green is good, yellow is water's getting pretty high, red is it's over banks. So that's kind of the 10,000 foot snapshot level. And then just like everybody else up here, we also let you sign up for alerts if you haven't gotten enough already. So you can sign up for alerts for whatever gauge you want in your local area to tell you whatever you want to know. If it's rained an inch in 15 minutes or 3 inches in an hour, you can put whatever you want in there. And the same thing with the channels. And I'll echo what Ruth said earlier. There's so many alerts that we all get bombarded with. It becomes almost alert fatigue. And we all have the tendency when we get that alert we didn't want to get at 1 o'clock in the morning to turning those off. And it's really, really important, especially if we're looking at some sort of big weather event, a hurricane or a flood or something like that, to make sure you go in there and make sure those alerts are enabled so we can get that information, that trusted information, we can get to you on your phone. And so it's really important to make sure those are enabled, especially if we're facing a weather situation.
That's absolutely right. Thank you, Jeff. So over the years, you've built a strong following because people know that they can count on your updates during emergencies. What responsibility comes with being such a trusted voice for our community, especially on social media?
Well, if anyone's on social media, you know what's all on social media. And you really have to have the ability to not respond to the comments and sometimes the questions that you really want to respond to, but you know because of the responsibility you have, you probably shouldn't respond to them. And I've seen that go badly for a lot of people where they feel like they need to respond. It's great to educate, it's great to help, try to explain, but at some point, you just have to move on and move past it. And to be honest, you got to have thick skin. And you can't let everything get to you and bother you and all that type of stuff. And you have to post stuff that people want to know. So you really shouldn't be clogging up your feed with information that is not helpful or anything like that, especially during emergencies. And the last thing, and this is a big social media kind of problem for a lot of us, we all face this, is social media is 24/7. It doesn't stop at 10 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning. And so when we're having a severe weather event or a flood or anything like that, yeah, we're up doing this stuff at all those hours because it doesn't stop. People need that critical information, trusted information that we keep talking about. And so you kind of get into all those types of things with social media as well as a lot of other things that I kind of mentioned earlier. Sometimes you just got to scroll on past that and not say anything.
So, Keith, you mentioned a resource earlier. Is that different from the outage tracker, or can you tell us a little bit more about other CenterPoint resources?
The two things you probably most need to know about are our outage tracker. We had a little bit of issues with that during Beryl. We have totally revamped it. It lives in the cloud
That's
now,
awesome.
so it's fully expandable. So the amount of people that went there and had issues during Beryl, we can now handle 7x that amount of traffic. So we will be good for the next event. We also can overlay the weather over top of seeing where the outages are. So anytime you want to go to that, that's our outage tracker, our outage map, very easily search centerpointenergy.com/outage. The new thing that we have is coming out of Beryl, we went and we did a lot of listening. We came out to a lot of your communities all across the 12 counties across greater Houston, and we told everybody, hey, we're replacing poles, we're trimming vegetation management, we're installing automation to make the grid more self-healing. And by and large, the response all of you said was, okay, where? Show me. So we now have this map, it's called our progress map, where you can go in and see where we've installed 65,000 poles since Beryl, where we've trimmed 10,000 plus miles of vegetation, where we've installed, 400 miles of undergrounding. So you can go there, type in your zip code, type in your home, see where your kid's school is, and see all the work that we've done around there. That's updated on a monthly basis.
That's awesome.
So every time we drop another 5,000 poles in our system across the course of a month, that's going on the system. So you'll be able to see all that. So two key maps for us, our outage map, that's where you're going to want to bookmark that for storms, but the progress tracker so you can see what's going on in your neighborhood. That's all part of our
Fantastic.
Greater Houston Resiliency Initiative. We know that Harris County is ground zero for climate impacts. We have a near perfect score when it comes to FEMA vulnerability. We get cold here, we get ice here, we get derechos, we get tornadoes, we get hurricanes, we get everything.
Yep.
So knowing that, that's why CenterPoint has to build that most resilient coastal grid, because when a climate event happens, we want it to hit our system and for us to be able to get back up quickly.
And I want to reiterate, CenterPoint is a really, really great partner. They are in our emergency operations center along with us. They don't sleep with us. They're there with us every time there's a storm. So we really appreciate you guys. And my next question for you, Keith, what is something that you wish families prepared for more ahead of a power outage?
We just want people to be ready. And the time to really prepare is not when that tornado siren is going off in your neighborhood or that hurricane is being predicted for landfall the next day. It's really in the time leading up for that. So please, please, please look at the resources these awesome government agencies are providing. Go to ready.gov. Go to all those places that have checklists, have plans. Make a plan. Talk to your family about it, what you need to do. And I would say finally, we have our plans. CenterPoint has our plans, whether it's cold, hot, hurricane, whatever that happens to be. We have plans, and we want you to know we execute those plans every single day. Coming up here in a few weeks, we're going to have our hurricane preseason drill. So we're going to be playing like it's the real deal, and we're going to be drilling. So we want everybody to have a plan because we have a plan, and we're going to be testing that plan in the coming weeks.
So I just have one more question for all of you guys before we wrap up. Tell me how else can people stay informed through your social media accounts. Just tell us a little bit about that, and we'll go down the line.
Don't just trust one source.
That's a great
Go and
one.
get a couple of 2 or 3 different sources, right? Hey, I got this. It looks like OEM, but maybe it's not some bad actors trying to put something out there. Go and look at a couple of different sources just to make sure it's true. Don't just trust one thing.
That's a good one. Thank you.
I agree. I think it's really important for everybody to have multiple ways to receive alerts. So whether that be Alert Houston, Ready Harris alerts. Also, don't forget about the trusted media that we have. Anytime that there's a disaster, media is with us at our Emergency Operations Center. They're there and ready to receive that information and give it directly to you. So don't forget about traditional media. And then I'm going to throw in there, of course, a NOAA weather radio. To me, that is just something that in the last few years, I've heard more and more people use as a really good tool. And it broadcasts directly from the National Weather Service office local to you. And they're very inexpensive that you can get at Academy or at Home Depot.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
If you guys want to impress your family members, get out Facebook and Twitter and follow Jeff Lindner. When there is bad weather on approach, he is the expert.
Bingo.
And if you read his posts, you can then educate your friends and family about what's happening. And I'm joking, but not really. You guys follow Jeff. He is the expert. But while you've got your phones out, follow Houston OEM, follow Ready Harris and CenterPoint and Transtar as well. These are great tools for you guys. We want you to be prepared every single day of the year so that when the bad days are here, we are ready to go.
Thank you, Josh.
So I'm gonna go a little different direction with this question. I'm going to echo a little bit what Ruth said about, what Lizette said about the no weather radio. If you look at what happened in the Hill Country, a lot of the cell reception wasn't good, and we rely so heavily on our cell phones that if you cannot get that message, if it either the message is not received or it's turned off, or your cell phone's out of juice, your battery's dead, and you cannot get that message, you really still need another way to get that information. And so when we say have multiple ways to receive warnings, it's not multiple alerts on your cell phone, it's multiple different methods of getting alerts that you can use for that information. So I highly recommend the No Weather Radio. They're about $40. An AM radio, I don't know, I heard cars are getting rid of AM radios, but an AM radio is another source where you can get information if you can't get it on your phone. And then if you have power and your phone's not working or your alerts aren't coming in, the websites, and we've already kind of listed all the government websites, National Weather Service, the CenterPoint tracker, these are all great things. And believe it or not, we all work together, we all talk to each other, and we all kind of work in this together, so we're all kind of saying the same thing. And that's really what you want to see is that same consistent message And if you're hearing that from all of us, you really need to take that action that we're asking you to take.
That's a great point, Jeff. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, what he said is exactly right. That's our goal, right? Especially all of us, we work in different agencies, right? We want the unified message. You don't want to get random different messages from all types of different sources. So if you have any questions, please let us know. We're here until 5. We have our booths. And the message is simple, right? Stay informed and sign up for alerts. And don't wait until the storm is here. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next panel is called Preparedness for Every Houstonian, Meeting Diverse Needs. Preparedness looks different for all types of families, right? So this conversation is really about emergency planning, for every member of your family, not just in general, right? So your senior citizens, your pets, your children. And so I'm going to introduce the panelists here. We have Corey Stottlemyre, Deputy Shelter Director for BARC.
Hello, everyone.
And we have Corinne, Emergency Management Coordinator for HISD.
Hi.
We have George Padmore, Call Center Manager for CenterPoint.
Hello, everyone.
And we have Kimberly Blanchard, Senior Staff Analyst with the Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities.
Good afternoon. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thank y'all for being here on this very hot day. So I want to start off with a question for all of you guys. So when people think about emergency preparedness, what is one thing that they often forget when planning their household? And we'll go down the line. We'll start with you, Kimberly.
Something that they forget, I would say planning for probably like their medications. Make sure that you have these maybe a few days worth in advance because you don't know how long you're going to be without power or without access to your pharmacy.
That's a great one. Thank you.
The next one after medication, of course, is pets. Is making sure that you have the supplies for your pets as well so that you don't have to go out and get things for them in the midst of a storm.
Okay, I would say planning for what if you're not all together. People often focus on everybody being at home and having the supplies that you have at home, but if you're not at home when an emergency happens, what is your plan?
That's a good one. For you, Corey?
Just bouncing off the pets discussion, being prepared to stay at home with your animals, but also to evacuate them with them if needed. We always tell people, at BARC especially, pets are a member of your family, so they need to be incorporated in all aspects of your planning, whether you have a kit for them at home, something to take with you, and kind of have those logistics planned in advance.
Thank you. So those are all really good answers. And that's very true. Not just having a plan for just sheltering in place or having your kid at the house, but that's exactly right. Having it in the car, you never know what emergency there's going to be, right? Because again, this is Ready365. We want everyone to be ready every day of the year, not just hurricane season. So we're going to start off with questions for Ms. Kimberly here. So Kimberly, what are some of the most important considerations families should think about when preparing loved ones with disabilities or access and functional needs?
Well, after you've taken care of those medications, which we call the 72-hour rule, make sure you have at least 3 days of medications. If you can get more than that so that you can be prepared no matter where you may be, that's ideal. But another thing might be for people who have mobility devices that require charging, or if they need to use an oxygen concentrator or something like that. Anything that requires power, make sure you have backup power sources. Make sure that you, if you need an adapter to go to your car to charge those things, because that might be the difference in you being able to ride out whatever the emergency is with all of your life-saving devices.
Yeah, that's a great one. I think people, they wait until the last second. If something sneaks up on you, we always see that happening, right? We always tell people, please, if you have a loved one, especially those who use something like dialysis, right? And locate those dialysis centers ahead of time and all of that. And can you talk to us a little bit about STEER? What is STEER? And does MOPD have some other resource that you'd like to promote today?
So STEER is the State of Texas Emergency Assistance Registry. I think some of our friends are here with 211, where you can actually call and check on some of the information to get registered with that. And basically, it's a list that lets emergency responders in your area know what some of your vulnerabilities might be and the kinds of things that you might need assistance with. And then within a few days after an emergency, they can at least check on you and try to see if there's some kind of needs that they can meet. And also, it's important to know that if you do sign up for STEER, you have to re-register every year and give the most updated information. So don't think once you're on the list that that's forever. Make sure that you keep us updated so we know where you are and what you need. And for our office, we have a number of services available. We have a referral program. Our referral team can call you if you make a 311 request for assistance, and we will try to hook you up with whatever the resources are that can support you in your specific disability need. But we also have a sidewalk accessibility program for those with mobility disabilities. So make sure that you can get to your bus station, make sure you can get to your store, or all of those activities you need to do in life every day to be able to live as independently as possible. And in an emergency, that might even mean getting to the place where you can be evacuated from.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Something that we also tell people whenever we go out and present, we tell them, even if you don't have a disability, right? Everyone has those medical tags in their cell phones. You never know what's going to happen. So, if you have a phone, you should definitely update that medical tag in there. And speaking of STEER, we always tell people as well, if you sign up today, for example, put a reminder for 1 year from today, because that is, I think, the biggest misconception about STEER. Just because you registered once doesn't mean you're going to be in there forever, right? We want to keep that registry up to date and everything. So thank you.
Right. People move and circumstances change.
Exactly. Yeah. So moving on to preparedness for pets, I have some questions for Corey. So Corey, pets are family, like you mentioned, but they're often left out of preparedness plans. What should every Houston pet owner have ready before hurricane season?
Like we said, have supplies available if you're staying at home for an extended period or you need to leave. Please take your pets with you. Do not leave your pets behind.
Please don't leave them.
Yeah, especially planning for, too, if you have different kinds of pets, maybe they're not used to cohabitating together either. Some people might have dogs that spend time outdoors and they're going to be staying indoors with you for a while. They might not have experience interacting with a cat. Kind of plan for that sort of thing in advance. Have supplies, have kennels. Acclimate your pets to those as well, especially if you have to evacuate. We tell people, especially with cats, it's hard to get them in a kennel or into a carrier sometimes. So if you leave it out, leave it with some treats, let them explore it, and just kind of incorporate it as part of their environment. So when you do have to evacuate, they're not scared of it. Have patience with your pets too. We as humans obviously react differently during emergencies, and your pets can't always tell you how they're feeling or how they're going to react. And you can't really predict always how your pet is going to react too. So you just need to plan as much in advance, knowing what resources you need, what sort of items your animal needs. We talked about medications. Pet have medication needs as well. Stock up for them. Sometimes you can go to your vet, ask them for some calming medication as well to help if you do have to evacuate, that sort of thing.
That's so true. I have a cat, and I know he would not be happy with moving around. Cats are very,
Same. Same. I have a cat, and she does not like her carrier.
Yep. And then something quick I want to mention as well. All of the City of Houston shelters, or most of them, we allow pets, so that's something that people should know. There's never any reason to leave your pet at home.
Yeah.
I think that's some of the messaging that we do as well during an emergency. If we open up shelters, can I bring our pets? So that's one of our main questions that we get. And 9 times out of 10, you'll be able to bring your pet as long as they're in a closed carrier.
Yeah, and we'll work with like the health department, your team, to try to deploy some resources if we have extra kennels, any sort of enrichment items, food, treats, try to give those out to some of those shelters in advance. But we really encourage you, if you have the ability, to stock up, because those resources are going to be limited.
Yeah, for sure. And on that note, is there any resources that BARC offers or anything as far as preparedness goes that you'd like to promote today?
Yeah, usually in advance, like for example, when we have the hard freeze, we've worked with Houston Pet Set, Houston Pets Alive, a lot of our external nonprofit partners to do drive-through type pet pantries and giveaways. We've given dog houses out before. Just so for everyone's awareness, in the state of Texas, you have to provide your outdoor animals with safe refuge from the elements, defined as any sort of extreme. So extreme heat, rain, cold, you have to provide them with safe refuge from that. So we'll try to provide resources to the community. We do pet pantries where we give away food, leashes, collars, items regularly. A lot of times we partner with our council members who will sponsor those events as well. But our nonprofit partners are great. And we'll try to connect residents with those same nonprofits at these events for, continuing needs as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think there's plenty of opportunities for people to learn about those resources and really gather all those materials for their pets. Over at Houston OEM, we have the collapsible pet bowls. So in case if anyone didn't get one, we have those available here as well.
Perfect. And one last thing, it is your pets are required, if you own a dog or a cat, to be microchipped in the city limits. Same goes for Harris County as well. They have to be registered with the city and microchipped. It's mandatory. And trust me, in these types of situations where a pet might get loose or lost if they're scared, especially not just even during emergencies, during the holidays when there's fireworks and loud noises and big parties going on, microchipping is essential to make sure your pet goes back home. Especially if we pick it up, we can contact you and you can come to the shelter and get it back home immediately.
Yep. Thank you, Corey. Okay, moving on to HISD. So, Corin, what are some age-appropriate ways families can talk with children about emergencies without creating fear?
Sure. So I would say the first thing from a parent's perspective is to stay calm. If you're calm, your kid is more likely to be calm. Also, using plain, simple language that kids can understand, and maybe even turning it into an activity or a game, something that's not as scary to them. And just really focusing on the idea that emergencies are rare, but you still need to prepare for them the same way that they do fire drills at school. And for older kids, giving them a task, helping them in the planning process, that helps them feel like they have some responsibility and that they're in control as well.
I like that, yeah, because it really depends on what age the children are, right? It's different for elementary school students versus high schoolers. I actually just had a baby. My baby is about to be 5 months tomorrow. And so he's never been through a storm, not yet. So what are some things that should be in a go bag, for a baby versus a middle school kid and a high school kid?
Right. So I think one thing that people often overlook is kids don't really have identification. Like they don't have a driver's license or a way to identify them. So even just like an updated photo of them, a family photo with your contact information would be helpful. And then like, for instance, your 5-month-old, a blanket or a stuffed animal, something that makes them feel comfortable. Older kids, you can put small activities like a little coloring book or a puzzle, something that helps keep them occupied.
Yeah, someone mentioned this to me the other day, kids, whether they're small kids or high schoolers, they need something to be entertained with, that's something that people don't think about when it comes to their kid, not just the food and the water, but, what are they going to be entertained with? And if it's something like an iPad, having those backup powered batteries just to have something for them to be entertained. So, yeah, I love that. So, moving on to George with Centerpoint. Sorry, give me 1 second. So, George, can you talk about how senior citizens and caregivers can better prepare for emergencies, especially during outages and especially during extreme heat like we have today?
Thank you so much for the question. So when it comes to outages, it really is a situation where when you're dealing with senior citizens that you have one understanding of where cooling centers are in your area. You also want to have a backup location if you don't have backup generation for the life-saving equipment that you have in your home. A lot of people, they really do feel like, hey, if I have, these things in my home, I should always be in my home. We also have critical care that Centerpoint offers for people who are in dire situations or have medical or life-saving equipment at home. They just need to work with their medical professional and just make sure they get registered for that. And then that way we can know who you are and where you are so we can prioritize, when your lights go out and these things happen.
Then, so this kind of goes back to one of the earlier questions that we had mentioned. But what should families do if a loved one relies on medical equipment that needs electricity?
Have backup power, right? That's always the first thing, is have backup. If for some reason you don't have backup or the backup goes out, you need to have a backup to the backup in terms of another location where you can take that person, even before a storm comes, if they don't have the backup generation needed in their home. I always say if you are, if you've got a category 3 or 4 storm coming, and you know something's going to happen in your neighborhood, in your home, critical care isn't going to stop your power from going out, right? Because it's a natural, storm event. Power is going to go out. What you need to do at that point is make sure you have another location that potentially you can go to that has that backup generation if you don't have it yourself. It's super important if you have life-saving equipment in your home, you have a way to power it, even if it's a backup battery, an electric vehicle that you can charge into, just anything else that you can have for a sustained period of time. If not, a backup location is definitely what you need.
Sure. So have a backup to the backup to the backup.
Always.
And since we were talking on extreme heat, something I want to mention real quick as well, City of Houston cooling centers, they are open all of the time. I think people think that they are only open when we hit a certain degree outside. But for example, today, the cooling centers, they're open, business hours. And so you can see those cooling centers on our website, houstonoem.org/extreme heat. So I have one final question for all of you guys. If every Houston family could do one thing tonight to be better prepared, what would you want it to be? And we'll start off with Kimberly.
So I would want everybody to find their support community, to make sure that they have people in place around them, that if something happens, these are the people that can check on them. These are the people that they would be able to reach out to for support, because it's hard to do anything alone, but especially when you have some sort of disability or vulnerability, that you're just going to need some help. And if you have that in place, it's going to be less scary and less uncertain.
That's a great one. That's one of our principles of preparedness, is getting connected.
I would say get your family together, have family meetings, family drills, whether it's a fire drill or an emergency drill, so that when a situation happens, they have an understanding of what the next thing is to do, and they're not afraid to do it, and they'll remember to do it. It's not the first time they've heard you say, hey, this is the where you need to go, this is where we're going to meet up, this is who you call. Like, all those things need to be known by your family. So have those family meetings so that you guys are all on the same page when something does happen.
Yeah, that's a great one. A plan is useless if nobody knows what the plan is, right? So definitely practice it with your family. All right, Corin.
Okay, mine's along the same lines, and I would say creating a family communications plan, making sure your kid knows who to contact if an emergency happens, a secondary location to meet at if they can't get home, and then also just designating that family member who's going to go and make sure that everybody's at that location.
Yeah, that's a great one. And just making a plan on how are you guys going to reach each other, right, if there's no power, like we saw in Barrel. So just having plans for all of those situations. That's a great one. What about you, Corey?
Making sure if you have a plan, your pets are incorporated in it. And if you need to go home and create a plan tonight, include your pet in those plans as well. Know what supplies you need, both for, again, if you're staying at home or you're evacuating, what type of kenneling. Y'all mentioned supplies, blankets, comfort items. Your pets need those too. So it's not just food, it's not just the kenneling. You need additional resources sometimes for those pets as well. So make sure it's just like you're planning for the humans and your family members, you're planning for your 4-legged family members as well.
That's exactly right. Thank you, everyone, for such great advice. And, go home today. Make sure that you prepare your kit, not just for hurricane season, but for all year round. So we're Ready365. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.